this could be raw, but that's where we,
Yeah.
you know what I mean?
I mean, the stuff you want to edit out is probably the stuff to keep, right?
Exactly. All
Yes.
right, man. Well, thanks. Here we go. We've been talking about this for a long time,
Like more than a year.
but let's just run with it.
Yeah. What I
Right.
mean, I'd be happy to say why I think we're here, or you
Do
can.
it. Go.
I, so you're writing this book last year. You're writing this book, and we actually started talking quite a bit more than we usually do, just because of all the memories, right? All the memories. And in fact, I blame you, just so you know, Don. I blame you for writing down my own thoughts about camp time, which is just, it was so therapeutic to sit and write it all out, right? And then as
Now, see, I had a little different interpretation of that. In that, when I told you I was going to write the book, you told me that much of that you had written was already at least in progress or started,
it,
but then maybe the book idea accelerated what you were writing. Would that be accurate?
nothing had been written at all.
Nothing. Oh, it was all up here.
That was just in here and needed.
Oh,
It just
okay.
dying to come out, though. You know what that's like as a writer.
Yeah.
It just
Yeah.
flows,
Right, right.
right? It's just it's got to come out. So
Yeah.
yeah, so no, I blame you for my therapy. Appreciate it.
All right.
So, but no, as we were talking, let's be honest, we laughed a lot,
A
and it
lot.
was just interesting, hilarious stuff. And we said, "What? Why are we being so selfish and not sharing this with everybody we know?" Right?
Right.
Because it's great stuff, and I think everybody can relate to it, and maybe we can get some good participation as well
Yeah.
along the way. So I think that's the start of why we wanted to.
Yeah, and I would contend that or contest that it started, way before this. Like you and I have had these kind of conversations, but in regards to the camp book, um, I actually ended that final chapter, not including the forward, but with something you wrote about if you had an opportunity, if you knew you were going to go back into camp for the first time as an 18-year-old, you would
Yeah.
have recorded the moment, and this is the
Oh
beginning of
yeah.
the beginning, and it was pretty deep, man. I gotta tell you.
I'm just trying to make you connect with your emotional self, Don.
Yeah.
Uh,
So yeah. Now listen. So obviously you're calling in from Virginia. I'm here in Buffalo. What I envision here is naturally to continue conversations we would otherwise be having, maybe not Zoom, maybe not video. Okay, like one of the really exciting things for me in the course of doing the book was uh, reconnecting with so many people that I knew at various levels, and some I hadn't talked to in 20 years plus, and uh, just to hear a little bits about what they're doing now. But then also, since the book has come out, when they tell me that they read it, they were like, "Oh, in chapter so and so, I remember this above and beyond what you wrote." I'm like, I wish I would have known that, but you only have so much time to put it together. And then they say they have these other stories, which, as I am leaning in toward doing a second volume, I would almost want to say, bank that one. Let me know. We'll put that down the road. But meanwhile, you and I have so much to still unpack, including. So you're recording the meeting, but I don't know what kind of creative control I have here, but I've
well,
got to figure out how to
can
share my
we,
screen because I'm going to put something in front of you that I don't believe you've ever seen,
hold
and I
on.
need your reaction to it. So go ahead.
We can we just for a minute talk about a couple basics, some ground rules, okay? Um,
Rules. All right, go
First of
ahead.
all, because we're going to do a couple of these, I'm sure.
A couple what?
A
A
couple
couple
of these
three.
videos. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. All right. Number one, is there a dress code? Because I'm going to wear like a t. I'm prepared. If you said, yeah, there's a dress code, I could probably pull something out, right? But
This.
I'm, I'm, I'm hoping no dress code.
No dress code, and I hope that doesn't mean that I have to prove to you that I'm wearing pants. They're shorts, actually. Trust me.
I will just trust you. Okay. And what about
Get it
lunch?
written down.
Oh yeah, yeah. So do we have to watch our language?
Ah, man, I would say PG-13 is kind of a baseline. I would say if we delved into anything R related, it would have to be relevant, not just
Not
for that. But
gratuitous.
that's not how you roll anyway. Although
I think we'll play it by ear. We have the edit. We have the edit button.
right.
Okay. How much are we going to plug your book?
Well, and here's where it's raw because
And which book?
I'll definitely the Life and Times of Camp in the Woods. Thank you very much. I'm proud of it, but the Life and Times of Camp in the Woods has been, um, obviously more recent, but so much more, fulfilling, and that's how we know each other more.
Oh,
If they like it enough, they would refer it to friends the same way they would if they love a movie and
yeah.
that kind of thing. So it's not a priority, but it's a nice side benefit, I guess.
But I would think at the start, at least, a lot of our topics are going to revolve around that, right?
Sure.
Just because it's fresh. That's what we're talking about recently, anyway.
Yeah, yeah, agreed.
Okay. Uh,
You got a checklist going.
Absolutely. Which one of us is the straight man, and which one's color commentary?
Uh let's just see how that plays out. You're right. I mean, normally in a situation like this where two people are hosting a show, one kind of takes the lead and the other follows and fills in the gaps. Um, I don't know. This is a hey. Let's say that's not a rule that we have to establish. We'll see how it plays out.
I think it's going to organically happen. All right, then I have other questions maybe for later, but did you give any thought to the title of our group here?
I did, I did because when
I'd
you
love to hear what you
all
came up
right, and this may be a little bit narrow, and it does fit into the book, particularly our own experiences having lived and worked together on boat staff. And I will say it is a title in the book, I think chapter 12 or 13, where originally it's about, when the fog happened, but it was mostly a way just to talk about what we did on boats and some of the crazy stuff. But um, I ended up going with Point Well Taken, which worked in the
with.
sense that the point was taken over by fog. Originally, the title was That's the Point. And I think you saw that and you liked it. And I thought, that's a good starting point.
Yeah.
Didn't even walk right into that. But I'm open to whatever else you have.
This is good. That's going to be tough. Those are pretty good. I'll be honest.
All right. Well,
When we were talking last, I don't know, one or two times ago about could you imagine if we were teenagers during the era of TikTok, right?
mm,
Can you even imagine? Because this is less you, more me. I can become the biggest idiot when the camera's rolling, right? And I mean, the crazy things we did, and things, and I'm sure you have some video to substantiate, but I mean, it's Super 8 video as opposed to, an iPhone with 4K resolution, right? The things we didn't record because Super 8 was not super accessible,
oh,
right?
well, it's so funny you say that because what I'm about to show you, um, and I tried to point this out in the book, is that when we did have a video camera around, you could just watch the people's reaction, like, oh, and they felt like they had to like perform.
Yeah,
Like nowadays, it's so commonplace. Back then, it was like a machine, and
yeah.
it was kind of rare, and people felt like, hey, I'm in the show now, and I've got to make some facial expression or act cool like I don't see it, and it had no sound, but
And no sound.
still,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
No, but the crazy things we did, some of it captured on film, most of it not.
So little of it. Like, and one of the dangers is, I think there's a perception of people at camp that when you worked on boats, that it was so funny what you wrote in there about in the week before how we had to test the boats. So we just
Make sure they're working, Don.
yeah, before we allowed guests to be pulled behind the boats, we had to thoroughly test them a
Quality
lot.
assurance is important.
And so when we did that, yeah, naturally, okay, we were practicing, but we had a lot of responsibilities. But during the times that I busted the video camera out, anybody would just grab at you or Jimmy or Don Miller or Mike Mazzano or somebody or John Bell and Steve Solom and just hey, and then the person being recorded would feel like they had to do something to justify being on film. It made it look like we weren't working at all. But we really were. Those were the rare moments, but they were fun.
Yes. No, we worked hard.
Yeah.
Well, I would because I think if we were in the TikTok era, we would have had subscribers for sure, right?
Sure.
I submit for you the title Prehistoric TikTok Gods.
Oh, wow. Okay. That's a lot to live up to.
We've already done it. It's over. We already did it. There's nothing to live up to.
All right.
Who's going to say what we did or didn't do? We didn't record it, right?
True. The only evidence we have is our word. And
can't be convicted without evidence, Don.
Right.
Not
well, I need to get into that. I need to put something in front of you because I'm telling you, I need your reaction. Camp with the Woods. Okay, but I still want your reaction to it.
All right.
There's you right out of the gate. Okay.
It's a very, very thin me.
Okay. Tell me what's going on here. Saturday morning, right?
We're eating donuts and milk, right? That is like
every Saturday morning.
Barge captain staple, right?
Huh?
That's a barge captain staple.
Yes, Saturday mornings.
Saturday morning, yeah.
Yep.
There's Beth. What's Beth's? We don't know the Beth's last name. I don't remember.
We do. I looked it up thanks to Joy Hughesland and Jim Olson, actually. It's Dodds. She went to Taylor, Dodds.
Dodds, that's right.
Jim Olson looked it up in the Taylor yearbook and found it. So now, yeah. So here's Saturday morning, and it is
I know what
Barefoot Nautique loaded with Tapawingo luggage. Okay, nothing to be suspicious about, right? I know you saw this.
I saw this. What?
There's some boat DNA on there.
Here's you lurking by the Nautique over there.
Yeah, wearing a pink shirt. What am I doing? All right.
You can pull that off, yeah.
All right. Now, this is Don Miller and you.
Okay, stop that right there.
Quint and Hooper in Jaws.
All right. I have a nasty scar from here to here. I don't know if you can see that or not.
I kind of can.
Okay. Do you remember what happened?
No. No, I don't.
I was standing on the platform on the back of the Nautique with a slalom ski, and I jumped into the water and I clipped the edge right along my ankle there.
Oh.
And I mean, you know how much water makes it look worse when you breathe. It looked like a horror movie. Down my whole foot was just red with blood. It was amazing.
That looks like it could have used a few stitches, but no.
Monty Python, just the dueling night there, just a scratch.
You realize how likely it is that some poor Tapawingo girl unrolled her sleeping bag and just had this nasty blood stain on it
I think that was mostly done bleeding because I think that was the day before I did that.
Oh, okay, it's still pretty.
That's like the scab. That's. Right. Yeah, I could have ruined some girls. Yeah, I'm probably getting it on that sleeping bag right there.
You were proud of it, and there's Don Miller. Okay, meanwhile, we got to find this guy because I want to meet him. He was, yeah.
Well, at least he doesn't have a common name, so we should be able to look him up easily.
I tried. Okay. Now, all right. Now here's where I,
Yeah,
I wrote that you hip checked her into the water. And when I saw Jimmy Olsen last Sunday at camp, he's like, "Hey, I watched that video and I remember some of this stuff going on, but you said he hip checked her into the water, and I didn't see it happen." I said, "I think you'll have to trust me. That's why she's all wet." And then you were kind of making it up to her.
I suspect I jumped us both in. I don't think I pushed her in without going in myself.
Ah, that was noble.
That was no. Oh
There's Jim
yeah.
taking off. Yeah, we had to. All right. So
Well,
yeah. All right. Okay.
all right. Is that Beth and Dawn again?
Yep. So Don and Beth Rock. This is a morning. This is a I would call it a morning, a regular morning at the point for whatever reason, and they're wondering the same thing. I'm walking behind them with a video camera.
He's such
Uh,
a stud, isn't he? Right? I mean, he looks like a soccer or lacrosse player. Like,
yeah, such a
yeah.
good dude. We need. So here we go.
Hey, that's the Scirocco.
Yeah. Now look at
Oh,
you. Okay,
oh
you're
no.
in there.
Oh
Windows are
no.
closed. You came from somewhere, and how cool is it that we're looking over the bow of the Marine Jeep? That's a whole segment for another show. Wait till you see the stuff I have for that.
Oh my gosh.
But you're bobbing in there. Okay, you're bobbing in there. Okay, what are you? Here's what I need to know. What were you listening to?
There is a 90 or greater percent chance that is Van Halen playing in my Blaupunk stereo of that 1978 Volkswagen Scirocco.
90%. You think it's that high with
I
your
do.
Steely Dan
No,
affliction?
not Steely Dan's for evenings.
Oh,
So
Van Halen was your morning routine. Okay,
yeah, you got to get jamming.
all
I
right.
love I'm wearing an army shirt. I was never associated with military at all, but why am I wearing an
I,
army shirt?
I don't know, but it's you've got more explaining to do here. I can't wait to get your
Totally
reaction to this.
free.
And you've not seen this, right?
I have not. See, the camera came out,
Okay.
and we
Okay,
have
wait.
to
Okay. I
wait.
need to know to what extent was that routine camp related, or is this like you even today, like every Friday morning?
Yeah, this morning I got up, I drove to the gym, I was on the elliptical, and then I had coffee. So there was no climbing on cars, but
Okay.
that's because no one was filming me, Don. If the camera had come out, I may have done something like this
Okay.
because right?
Because okay, now here's where we had this crazy idea. Somehow we can make it look like someone just because they threw their arms back was actually doing a backflip if we turn the camera over.
I mean, there was a time when I could just stand and do a backflip.
I have videos of that. Now you were doing it in the water.
Well, no,
Okay.
I mean, yeah, I'm
Okay.
not afraid of to say I was a gymnast. Okay. Do you remember the time we went to the wall at the beach and you stood on the wall and did a backflip into the sand? And then I'm like, oh, that looks cool. And I'm thinking, okay, it's a good, I don't know, 2 or 3 foot drop. So
Hmm.
I shouldn't rotate as much because I have more time to land, right? Otherwise, you'll rotate and land on your butt. So I totally under rotated and landed on my stomach, like did half a flip. It was horrible. Oh,
That was just probably the first time you did it. I imagine times two, three, and four, you were sticking the landing.
yeah, after I, really hurt myself.
I didn't remember that. See, to me, you were just invincible, scars and all.
Oh, it's
Yeah, you're a lot later than me. The sun's going down here in Buffalo a little bit. I'm gonna turn the light on. Hang on.
like a TV show. Sun going down in Buffalo.
There we go. To unleash it, but I need your commentary just as you did there. That was exactly so. Van
That,
Halen was your morning. Okay.
that
See
was
you at night.
90% chance it was Van Halen. That was In fact, when I first met Lori with that car,
I have video of that, not your first meeting, but
yeah,
of you and Lori at the point. Okay, yes.
okay, I had the Van Halen tape in, right? And your Uncle Bob, I told him, hey, there's this really sweet girl I just met. And he said to me, and I think I wrote this in what I sent to you, right?
Did.
He said to me, she goes to Cedarville. She's probably really conservative, Tom. And so, she got in the car. I had been cranking Van Halen, and it was on, I turned on the car and it was blaring, and I quick popped out the cassette. And this was the moment I knew. Okay, this is the moment I knew. She said, "What are you doing? I love Van Halen."
Nice.
Good.
Oh, wow. This is the moment you knew. Yeah. There comes a time in a relationship that was pretty early. Yeah. Where, uh, what album was that? Was that 5150 or um,
1984.
1984? There you go.
Yeah,
All right.
yeah.
Yeah. It was Amy. So, by the way, I do apologize because you pointed out that one of the hopefully few mistakes in the book was that I wrote that when you spent the postseason there, it's because, of course, we'd been at Houghton together, and but you made this super connection with her, and I said she was at Grove City, and
Yeah.
of course it was Cedarville, but it in my head I knew she was from Pennsylvania, and there were a lot of people that came from Grove City, and I just haphazardly said that. So my apologies to Lori and you and Cedarville University. So,
Well, yeah, I wouldn't worry too much about that. I made so many mistakes. Some of them I fixed after talking with you, but when I look back at the book, like Sheriff Parker, I had him pegged as a state trooper, but obviously he wasn't. Things
semantics.
like that I made, but I mean, even years I think I got wrong. Like we stayed at the Point my third year. It was the second year that we stayed in the dorm, the new guys' dorms,
Yeah, at the field house.
field house. Yeah.
Was that the second year or the third? See, I'm mixed up now too. 87, 88. I can't remember the order because it was with Scott and Earl Johnson, maybe.
Yeah.
But when
Yeah.
we were the four of us there, okay.
And it was
But
great because Earl Johnson was never there.
Night
So,
Watchman, that's right.
so
Good
no, I
point.
think it had to be. I mean, we'll have to figure that out for sure, but I'm pretty sure you were the you were barge you were the captain of the barge captains
'88.
the third year. That's what
Yeah,
we stayed at the
you
Point.
were team director,
Yeah.
and we had that awesome idea that that we are gonna scare those kids that weren't getting scared anymore.
Don't ruin it. I think you ought to make people read the book to get that story, right?
Agreed. Yeah.
Instead.
Um, I would just say for as seasoned and reasonable as you and I are coming across right now, um, fair to say we grossly mis
Yeah.
misread or decided, let's say, overreaction.
Or just poor choices, poor judgment. Poor judgment.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah. I
It
was
makes a
told that.
great story now. Right?
Just to think about it, yeah. And the afterward, I wrote how Jeff Johnson, who was editing the book, wrote like I could see when he would write. It was a Google share, and he was like, "Oh, I see where this is going." And then at the end, he wrote, "Oh man, this is funny, but you guys were idiots." And I'm like, "Guilty as charged."
Yeah, we really were idiots. Oh my gosh, it's just too
Yeah.
good.
Oh yeah. So much
Speaking
more.
of the
So,
book, were we going to read a? Did you bring something to read?
um, it's all no.
I did.
I have a case of books behind me, but I didn't. specifically point anything out, but you said you
I
had something you would show. Sure, let's go with it. There we
haven't
go.
seen Don's book. I got to tell you, this one, when I read this, I was just like, that is just the best. And I honestly, I was sweating a little bit. Like, are they going to get caught? Are they going to get
All
caught?
right. I know where you're going. I know where you're going.
Just,
I'll
it
tag
was,
Bruce O'Byrne on,
yeah,
on this when I post it.
yeah. And not to mention, Punk is one of my favorite camp characters, isn't he?
Yeah, yeah,
He's
he's a character, right? A,
just,
a great one, yeah. And there
I
was a
mean,
Houghton connection.
yeah,
I Yep. In when we were at Houghton, he was the guy. He was like Red in Shawshank Redemption. He was the guy that knew how to get things for us. He knew how to get concert tickets, and
yeah,
he was the guy that said, "Okay, look, Rush is playing in Rochester, October 20th or whatever. Give me the cash. I'll go stand in line." And he went and got all. That's how you had to do it back then. You had to
yep.
go in line and pay, and we would give him the money and go. And it was just um, this is kind of a reference in Fast Times at Ridgemont High, which a movie I don't advocate for, other than the parts just with Spicoli in it. But there was also a guy in there that could get concert tickets. But Punk was way cooler than all of those guys in the movies.
And a totally gifted musician. I
Yes.
would love to know what he's doing now,
Okay,
right?
I know some of what he's doing, and
Yeah.
he is either bought or he's at least running, if not having bought a ski lodge in Lake Placid.
What?
Yes. Yes. Yeah.
Go there.
Well, but I talked to him for a good time last summer. He gave me the story that you're about to read, but also that yeah, he runs a lodge and he does real well. Jim Olson went up and spent some time with him. Bruce O'Byrne still stays in contact with him. Andy Helfrich, and I we need to talk to him. Let's talk to him really soon on the next one of these that we do.
Yeah.
You
Uh,
just spontaneously, organically, however you want to say it. I've been thinking there's so many people we could talk to because of what you just said. We're gonna get him. I'd love to.
it's on the short list for sure.
Short
I'd just
list.
love to see what he's done with life. I mean, it's
Yeah, he's still a heck of a musician too. I challenged him to play a Pink Floyd song, "Us and Them," and not only did he nail it with the voice and the piano, he brought in a friend of his that played saxophone, including the saxophone solo in that song. And it was just like, wow. But all right,
all right. Let me read this.
yes, this is his story.
If you haven't bought Don's book, this should make you salivate to go get it, and you're going to read story after story like this one.
All right.
This is from Steve Punk Vance, Punque.
Yes.
Our preseason crew of the 1980s was such a tight-knit crew. There was a dedication to the job, 80s fashion and music, with spirited fun and hijinks. While the workload was legitimate, we were also privileged to be benefactors of Steve Miller's cooking at Woodlands. That is
Yeah.
true. That is one of the best things about preseason. Sitting in the kitchen,
Yep.
eating Woodlands food. Thank
And
you.
you talked about doing it yourself in the postseason.
Oh yeah. I
Yourself
mean,
late at night.
I had I had free reign. Like it was amazing. At some point during preseason, Chef Steve created his much anticipated baked Alaska dessert for us, a treat normally reserved for the paying summer guests. Bruce O'Byrne and I couldn't get enough, and it almost got us into trouble one night. A mere 2 hours after dinner, we needed some more. Flashlights in hand, Bruce and I broke into the kitchen by picking the lock with a butter knife, which we kept on hand for midnight cravings. How to explain the significantly decreased quantity of baked Alaska to our coworkers the next day was of no concern at the moment. Using napkins and plastic cutlery to hopefully leave no trace, we inhaled several generous portions in no time. So far, so good until this is so good. To our horror, we heard footsteps coming up the loading dock. We scrambled up a step ladder to the top of the giant walk-in cooler. I remember that thing is just this huge silver box, right?
Yes.
We
I
scrambled
never
up a
realized
step
there was
ladder.
enough room above, but apparently there was above the top and the ceiling, but just
I
not
wouldn't
enough.
have thought to do what they did.
Desperation, I guess.
Yeah. There was only about 2 feet between the cooler and the ceiling, just enough space to flatten out and stay unseen. We heard the doorknob turn and saw the room light up overhead. Trying hard not to breathe loudly is one thing. It's an entirely different effort to stay silent when you realize it was Mr. Gordon Purdy, the big boss, in the room. It's so perfect. I'm trying to just picture them. They're up on top, looking down, the table right there. He probably opens the cooler that they're sitting on, that they're laying on, pulls out dessert, and then he sits down to make himself comfortable. And they're just like, how is this ever going to be over?
And they can't talk to each other. All they could like communicate, I would imagine, is just with their eyes, like, what are we going to do?
It's just the best. This is just the best. He too was following his craving for baked Alaska as he moved towards the walk-in cooler. Only he had no intention of eating and running, right? He's allowed to be there. I love it. He took his sweet time savoring his generous portion for what felt like an hour. How we stayed quiet up there that long, I'll never know, but when Mr. Purdy eventually left, we got out of there and back to our rooms. Fortunately, our preseason pals never ratted us out despite getting shafted out of another helping of baked Alaska the next day.
And that was you. And
oh my gosh! Well, I had no idea that happened until you wrote that for you.
I didn't either. Oh man, no, that was classic. Yeah,
makes me angry reading that is. Why did I not do that too? We could have gone in there and gotten some.
You did it in the postseason, but you said you made like ham and cheese sandwich melts or something.
Oh man, I got so good at making grilled cheese with ham.
Yeah, that was to prepare you for your go-kart. Which, by the way, you told me that you liked. They were mostly your words, but I kind of did a framework around it. Talking about when you finally took the go-kart out on the road on camped roads. And you said you liked it, but you putting you on the spot right now, Tom.
Yeah.
I was kind of leading you into hoping that you would have picked up on some of the words and the phrasing.
Oh, totally. I was straining the machine in hand type phrasing.
Yeah, we got 1:50, and there were a few things I threw in there that I thought you would recognize. I wouldn't call it plagiarism, but
I mean,
are you there?
I gave you permission to do whatever you wanted with what I had.
Yeah. But it was a reference there.
Well, maybe that's for next time.
All right.
You should have read some of that just to make sure I didn't miss any of them because maybe I missed a couple.
You're on the honor system, so no, I think it's accurate what you wrote, but. There was a little bit of subliminal between the lines stuff that I put in there that I was hoping you would recognize.
I definitely recognize.
That's a good way to leave it.
I have to make sure I got all of them though. So you're gonna have to, sometimes I'm not so bright when.
No, you're very bright. But next time we're gonna get Punk on. I hope I'm gonna ask.
Yeah.
Like we can just and then some other Jim Olson. Another video I have. Something happens when we did videos where you're looking and all of a sudden Jim would hop.
Like on a pogo stick, like an imaginary pogo stick.
What was
he thinking? Ask him.
I love it. We got to ask him.
Get him on and kill him with that question. Jim, what was going through your head at that moment?
Oh, yep. All right, man.
That went fast. Wow.
So fast. Well, hey, I think we should do more. I have battling some allergies here, but yeah, this time's gonna fly. But there's so much more to